Oh, shit. Am I on? Can you guys hear me? Testing, testing. Hello? Oh, shit. Am I on? Okay. Oh, man, there's a lag. That's annoying. Okay. Alright. This isn't too loud or anything. Can't see in here. Are there ways that you can improve the lag on it, or is that just inevitable with using Twitch? Are there ways that you can improve the lag on it, or is that just inevitable with using Twitch? Are there ways that you can improve the lag on it, or is that just inevitable with using Twitch? Echo. Okay. That's lame. Sorry if I'm like quiet for a couple seconds. I'm just making sure I kind of have everything in order. Oh, you're digitally untamed. Hi, Crystal. Hi. Hi, guys. Hi, Sam. Hi, Big Fishy. Hi, Cerullicat. Hi, JP Hueso. I don't know how you say your name, sorry. And hello, Jacob. Alright, that's good to know. Alright, I'm just gonna send a message out to Twitter and Facebook, I guess, that I am online now. If everything's okay, which I think it is. Let's see. I'll play some music. So you guys aren't all quiet. Hi, Prostate Sunrise. It's a good name to say. I'm gonna be sure my music isn't too loud. Let me know if like the music's too loud and I can turn it down on my end. So I think I'm all good to go. Right. Okay, I'm glad I got that right, JP. I can't read your name because of the text. This is Kalos Silkta. Thank you very much. Everything's been good, Sam. Very, very good. Been very busy lately with my kind of new job, but I'm glad I get to have time set aside for you guys to do something fun for myself, which I kind of need, or else I just go insane if it's just all work stuff 24/7, which is it's kind of been like the past couple months, but all in like a good way though. Thank you, Cerulean Cat. And Big Fishy, I will try my best, but I know sometimes life happens and sometimes I might not be able to always be able to get to doing something on Sunday and streaming, or how long I would be able to stream if I were doing something. As of now, that's why I'm not really having like a set schedule for it yet. It's just sort of me testing the waters and just seeing how you guys like it, and that way I can sort of get feedback from you guys, what you like from me, what you want to see and whatnot. So yeah, so I'm glad to get started. Oh, thank you, Jacob. Read Kyle. Okay, good to know. Thank you. Hi, Leisha. Thank you for waking up early for me. Gosh. Let's see. Drawing. I don't really have like a set plan for what I was gonna draw. I knew I just kind of wanted to do whatever it is I kind of like feel like drawing, and usually that's not anything like specific in mind. Like I'm not gonna do like a super finished piece or anything like that. If you guys seen like the kind of work I usually post, especially for my sketchbooks, is usually kind of a mix of whatever I am in the mood to listen to while I'm listening to music or whatever. So that way it's not like me putting a lot of pressure on myself to make something crazy epic. So usually I just kind of go into it like I would go into one of my sketchbooks. So it's that kind of thing. So not like a theme or anything like that, but I could do whatever. Usually if I have no idea what to start with, I just always just draw a girl's face. So bear with me on that. Just warming up. I also was telling Crystal earlier, I kind of have caffeine jitters. I was like, oh, I'll drink coffee at 9:30, so then that way by the time it's 3 o'clock here, then I'm like awake but calm down, and no, it's not gonna happen. Whatever I got in my coffee earlier today, there was a little bit of espresso or something in it, because I am like super awake right now. Oh, fuck that thing. I hate that update every time. The last time I updated, I was like, okay, maybe I'll actually do that update so you can stop pissing me off and like bugging me every 5 minutes about it. It totally crashed everything that I had in Photoshop, and all my other programs weren't really able to like be opened anymore. Like every time I was using it, the brush was like all jittery like that, and then next thing I know, everything would just like shut out, and it was so bad. And I had to lug my freaking iMac to the closest iMac store here, which is like all the way in Glendale, and I'm in Burbank, so that was a hassle. And it was on a Sunday too, which was the worst. But I was like, could you just please put me on one of the older softwares you guys have, because I do not want to upgrade at all. It's not going to change anything about how I work or anything. I just don't need it. So that versus seeing that little stupid window pop up all the time, I'd rather deal with the little pop up than to have that whole mess happen to me, especially when like I have to work from home and I don't want to risk anything like that happening to my work or anything. So yeah, that's annoying. So I'll like draw like a little bit here and there, but I want to make sure I don't like miss your guys's like questions or chat things on here too. Yeah, it was the Yosemite one. That was the one that really screwed me over. It sucked. So I don't even bother with it. Oh, wait, shoot, sorry. Sorry, I forgot to add my mods on here. Type. That'll work? I don't know if that worked or not. Oopsie. Fail. Shoot. There you go. All right. My brain's at like 5 different places right now. The joy of starting my first stream ever. Hi, MK Ultra. The great thing about like working up close right now on this is that I have like 2 other windows open that have the smaller version of what I'm working on, so in that way it just sort of make sure I keep everything drawn the right way, because there's nothing worse than just like working in so close on it. You're just amazed by what you put down, and then you zoom out and it's just like all of a sudden it turns Picasso. Fuck. Damn it. If you ever think that every line that I put down is exactly how I want it to look, that's like almost never the case, especially right now when I'm like warming up too. Especially if I work digitally, like my left hand stays on Control Z. You have no idea. See, I don't like this one right now. Oopsie. Oh yeah, so I don't know where this thing is where you add the creative option. Oh wait, someone's telling me now. Go to my dashboard. I see. Okay. Okay. I think I did it, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm catching up on these chats. Okay, so I think I did the creative thing. I can also just go to the stream channel. It's above the stream window. Yeah, okay, so that was probably what I already did. Maybe, hopefully. That sounds about right. And yes, Living Food, hello. I'm pretty much streaming now, so feel free to hang out. I'm bored of this one. I'm already ready to move on. I'm just gonna go in at it. Allison's afternoon art stream extravaganza. That is a mouthful. I suck at titling things, so I think I just titled it for stream, and then that's it. So yeah, it's creative there. Thank you, Jacob. I'm really happy with how everything I kind of worked for had led me to where I am right now. It took, I guess, nearly 3 years. I guess oh shit. It's actually the 25th is the exact 3-year anniversary of when I first moved to LA. And what a roller coaster it was, but I'm glad to be at this point in my life right now, so thank you. If you see those 2 little dots that I kind of put just above the nose, sometimes I'll just, at least digitally, I'll do a slight indicator for where I know I want the eyes to go, but I don't predetermine like what exactly it could look like, just because if I overthink it, then it tends to look really stiff to me, and it doesn't feel as loose or natural as I am just sketching it out on paper. Because that's kind of like the obstacle I tend to hit when I'm drawing digitally, is that I'm very aware that it's not how it feels when I draw on my sketchbook. Like, sketchbooks are tactile, they have the texture of paper, and the pencil I use, like depending on what you're using, your lines can always vary, but then it's just towel and pen. So I kind of have to pave different paths to get to the certain kind of drawing or artwork I want to make. Oh my gosh, it's so much easier on a Cintiq though. Oh my god. So much easier. Because at least in that regard, it feels like I'm drawing straight into, like, straight on the paper. Glad you guys like my lines. And yes, Jacob, gesture drawing is so essential to confidence in how you draw. I feel like if I didn't draw from life as much as I did during college, I would feel way less timid in like approaching any kind of sketch. I just fully accept the fact that I'm going to make mistakes in whatever it is that I'm going to be drawing. And I think once you kind of overcome that, then you just stop the overthinking everything else. And then you're just having fun with it. Because that's what you should be doing when you're just sketching in general. It's not something for work, so it's not like you have to think about it like that. You're doing it for you. Not whether it looks great to other people or not. At the end of the day, you should be happy with whatever it is that you did that day. Or didn't do, because sometimes we need breaks from working. Is everything looking okay on what you guys are seeing so far? Okay. Alright. And everything sounds okay too? Yay. Well, I don't have that that Australian internet like Leisha does. No offense, Leisha. From what I hear from her, it sucks down there apparently. Which sucks. I wish I could give you some of my internet, Leisha. Potato internet. And I'm glad everything sounds good too. I'm really excited about this mic that I got, and I got the pop filter so it doesn't do the annoying pop on it. It's only like $5 on Amazon too, so it's fucking awesome. I love it. Isha, I was wondering, what do you think the best way to learn how to draw faces creatively would be? Do you just do tons and tons of studies of people and try to push proportions? Yes, pretty much. Whether it's movies you watch, I mean, like, sometimes it can be kind of tough working off of something that's on a screen, because even like when you're watching a movie and you pause it, it's essentially the same as referencing something from a photo, which I think is okay if you're just kind of doing some light practice, but if you wanted to genuinely get better at drawing faces, then the best thing that I can always recommend is to do it from life. I feel like you miss a lot of little intricate details in faces, and I used to always draw people that were mid-talk, because there's just like, as opposed to just drawing faces that are like happy, sad, angry, frustrated, there's like little nuances and expressions that people have in their faces, and everyone has a way of talking or expressing their faces, like physically, or anything like that, or whether you do hand gestures or not. That's always how I like to draw people, and as I got better at that, it was easier for people to recognize who I was drawing if it was somebody they knew, because everyone kind of does something unique in how they talk. So that was always like my favorite thing in practicing drawing from life a lot. Is I remember when I was living in Richmond, Virginia at school, there was a coffee shop called Crossroads, RVA represent, and I would just sit there for hours in between like classes if I could, or after classes, and just draw people all the time. And it was just my favorite thing. And when you never know if people are going to get up and leave any time when you're drawing them, that's all the more reason to practice your speed in drawing people, and it makes you less focused on drawing their details, like what does their eyebrow exactly look like or whatever. It's about just like capturing their overall gestures and pose all at once as soon as you can. And so that was just always something that kind of stuck by, and once I did that and once I realized it, then it was so much better from there. But yeah, I guess I hope that answers your question, because that's just how I've, like, since then, I guess that's just how I always draw from real life. And so it's tougher for me if I'm just like sitting at home and trying to get out certain drawings or everything. But I think you get better at it as you're drawing more like outside of it. And I see people talking about figure drawing. That is so essential, because I remember going into high school, or going into college from high school. I think you get this whole idea of like, if you were ever the only artist in your high school, you kind of have that little bit of like artist ego, like, oh, I was the cartoon person or whatever. And I'll admit I did have a bit of that. And then you go to college and you're like, oh fuck, I'm surrounded by everybody that does art. Everyone that could have been that one artist person in their high school. And that's when I kind of had to take that humble step back and really get into the fundamentals of what I wanted to learn. Like, okay, you have a general idea of what it is that you want to do after college, and then maybe you could do research on what other artists have done to maybe take those steps towards that goal. So whether they went to school or not, whatever, but whether they went to figure drawing classes or they just went out a lot and drew people from life as much as they could, then what's more important than figuring out like your style of work or whatever, because I don't like that question a lot, like how do you figure out your style? Like that just, you don't think about that, and you think more about making sure you understand your essentials, your understanding of like figures and anatomy and everything. That's far more important to me, because once you kind of gain more knowledge and confidence in that, then it shows in your drawings. And then there's a believability, even when you're watching like Disney. I mean, obviously those guys had studied anatomy because you believe it, even if it is in that Disney style. Because if people are just trying to emulate that Disney style, then you can always tell when poses are really awkward, because they're just sort of copying from what they see and not the depth of it, I guess. So, and yes, where is it? MK Ultra. The best way to not get caught, I guess. I mean, like, who cares if you get caught drawing them, whatever. People end up being really like flattered by it when they catch you doing that, I guess. But yeah, it's whatever. Who cares what people think? I mean, like, they don't know you. It's all good. Let's see. And then, do you think it helps to learn how to draw people realistically before? Yeah, I guess that was pretty much kind of what I touched on. It's good to draw people realistically. One of my really good art books that I have is you guys probably know the book Anatomy for the Artist. If I could recommend like a really good book to work off from for just sort of breakdown on anatomy and everything like that, that's always been a really handy book for me. I had a figure drawing teacher from VCU that was like one of the only books he really recommended to have for the class, and that in combination with applying that to actual figure drawing really helped me so much. I saw a huge difference in my work from when I went into school and when I left. Sorry, I like talking to you guys, but I have to remember to draw too. So I'm reading back on your comments too. I've never actually approached the idea of using like 3D sculpting things, like whether it was like I'm totally blanking out on the 3D program that people use. ZBrush. Whether people use ZBrush or they actually like clay model things, I think that's a really cool way to learn about anatomy and like the figure. And I've always kind of wanted to get into sculpting down the road. I remember Dana and I visited a friend at Blizzard, and it was really cool that they actually had a classroom that was dedicated to learning about sculpting figures from clay and everything. I was like, that'd be actually really neat to sort of get a better handle on drawing figures, and you could actually see the figure in all angles and everything like that. So that's pretty cool. That's something I need to try out eventually. Hey everyone that came in. Oh, hi Cassandra, sorry I didn't see your name. I'm trying to catch up on these chats. I'm not ignoring you, don't worry. Let's see. Danny's doing great. Prostate Sunrise. He's busy right now. He's got his own work that he's doing. Oh, okay. Thank you, Alex. It's easier now. Hi, Snake Bearer. Yeah, I'm trying to see. I don't know if there's a way for me to turn off the link thing for people to like share links if they wanted to. Oh, okay. Thank you, Alicia. Our John Drew. I've been following and singer for a while here. Is this the first stream I've ever watched? Could you tell us a little bit? Oh gosh. Oh, the journey story. I will do my best to be as coherent as that when I'm drawing. I didn't really go to school for specifically anything animation related. I've always drawn my whole life, but I was originally going to play basketball in college, and I thought that was going to be like my career path. But when I was in 11th grade, all of a sudden I had that like heavy weight on my shoulders and that I couldn't do it anymore, and it started to feel like I was doing it for other people, less for myself. And so then I remember it was like before senior year when I knew I was going to be starring on my varsity team. I told my coach that I was like, yeah, I'm quitting. He was like, you're quitting now, like when you're going to be on varsity starting player, what's going on, what the hell, like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. I just don't want to do this anymore. Sometimes you just kind of have to follow your gut in that, or else had I done that, my life would be so different now. But anyway, I'm trying to make it as quick as possible. I draw. So then I was just a little bit of that feeling of, oh, fuck what I do. I kind of screwed everything up and quitting the team. Why didn't I stay? Yada yada. And I felt kind of awkward. And I was always like kind of shy around that time. And I remember like during basketball practices, I always had my sketchbook. And whenever we were taking breaks, I would just draw if I could. So then I was like, well, I do that a lot, and I've done that for as long as I can remember, so why don't I just do that seriously? And I think there's always that skepticism that comes with that, like when people hear that and like, oh, you mean like cartoons? You want to do like cartoons or like graphic design? Like, no, I want to like get into animation. I don't know how, but I feel like that's what I want to do. And my parents believed in me just enough that we were like, okay, I think they just wanted to see it to believe it, pretty much. And that was exactly what I had worked towards, that I was going to prove myself in that area. So I guess I was confident enough that I only applied to one university, and it was VCU, because VCU just happened to be a school that was in-state, so it was affordable, and it happened to have a really great illustration program. So I was like, fuck it, I'll just apply for that, see how it goes. And like, I think I blacked out on like what I put in my portfolio, but it was like just good enough that I got into the school and I got into the major that I wanted to get into, which was great. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have met a lot of like my really cool friends and really great mentors from there. Like, I don't know if you guys know Sterling Hunley, but he was a teacher I always wanted to have, and since I got to VCU, and then when my schedule finally allowed me to take one of his courses, it was senior year, and it was like everything just kind of fell into the right place in that regard. Like every decision I made was just one that ended up being right for me, and it ended up being really great. And I remember I wanted him for my senior portfolio class, but then I had a different teacher instead because it just conflicted with my schedule. And that teacher for senior portfolio, he gave me a C- on my final portfolio, and then pretty much I could read in the fine print that he didn't think that I was going to get to where I wanted to get to. Like that's not a possible field to get into. Even though, dude, there's like so much animation. How is that not something that people can work towards? So it was just so stupid to hear that. I was like, well, fuck you, I'm gonna do it. And so I did this mentorship program with Sterling that year after I graduated, which kind of helped me give a more clear direction and like how to hone down what to work towards. It like, okay, so if you want to do this specifically, this is kind of here's like a starting point. And then from there on, it was just kind of mostly driven by me. And Yeah, Sterling is awesome. He's like, if you ever have him for a teacher on anything, I couldn't recommend him anymore. But I'm gonna lose my train of thought of the story. I remember that year was interesting because that was when I had started building the story that I had that was eventually going to be my Kickstarter. And I got that funded at New York Comic Con 2012, and I remember I had this plan that, like, okay, I was going to move to LA that following April 2013, and I was going to, like, be able to, I had, like, a job lined up for me around that time that I was going to be working at this, like, small animation studio doing storyboard art, and it was going to be a schedule that allowed me to work on my Kickstarter at the same time. And yeah, so then that I moved, and it was going to be like a month or two until the actual job started. And then it turned out, like, this was like the first, like, of life throwing shit towards me. Like, everything else I kind of lined up perfectly. As soon as I moved to LA, it was just complete opposite when I moved there. Because it's pretty much like it was like 2 weeks before I was officially going to be brought into the studio, and I had gotten news from my friend who had introduced me to him that the guy that was going to hire me passed away. He had a heart attack. And so I was like, fuck. I don't know anybody else at that studio. I can't be like, yeah, that guy that died who was going to hire me, when are you guys going to hire me? Obviously, I can't do that. I would go to hell. So I just had to, like, start from the beginning, pretty much. So that was when I was, like, stressing the hell out, and I was scrambling, looking for jobs with zero animation connections. I mean, it was just that one guy that was going to hire me, like, when I moved there. And so working off of that, obviously, like, so much of, like, how you get work in animation is from who you know. I mean, obviously, it's not like I didn't have the talent. It was just I just didn't have the right people vouching for me, and you kind of need that vouching to really have that confidence that they can have in you to give you that job. And so that, obviously, because of that, I wasn't really getting any work in that field. So then I had to swallow my pride and then work at this art store that was, like, near where I lived. And I worked there for a year and a half. And then that whole year and a half, when I was stressing out, I was working as much as I could. I mean, like, I wasn't already, like, really making ends meet. I could only really make so much money there. And then, like, my parents had to help me out. And it was just, like, a huge blow to me. And with all that going on, I kept putting off, like, working on my Kickstarter because I just, like, mentally, I was just not there. I was just thinking about my situation in life and trying to, like, I was like, I need to have my shit together before I can really get to, you know, putting all of, like, that creative energy into this book that I know I love. But it was just one of those things, like, when you go to work on the project that you love, and with everything else in your life that's already kind of low, you look at your work and you just hate everything you're putting out. So that kept happening to me. So, I mean, it was just to the point where I had to eventually postpone the book, and it was hard to tell, you know, backers that it wasn't something I could do right now, because I just had to, you know, keep focus on what I needed to have done in my life. And it was definitely one of the hardest things to have happen to me, like one of the hardest. And this is the first I ever really talked about it to this many people too, and it sucked. And yeah, so then, well, thankfully a lot of people were understanding of it, but it was still kind of something that, you know, it's hard to temporarily give up, like, something that you really wanted to work on. And so I feel like in the end what really matters is that you learn from it. And one, it's not easy putting a whole book by yourself too, because it was a graphic novel, and, like, the story was about something I love so much. I mean, I'm a huge, like, history buff, and it was about, like, the growth of Temujin in his childhood and how it led. And Temujin is Genghis Khan, by the way. So it was pretty much like what happened in his early childhood that led him to become Genghis Khan. It's like one of my favorite stories to talk about. And so when you know that you can't put everything you can into it, then you just kind of have to know when to take that step back. And that was kind of something that I didn't want to accept, because I think that it was just like, if I do this, then I'm going to feel so much better. But while I was trying to do it, I was just stressing out and just getting more anxiety from it. So, but yeah, so anyways, it's going to be something that I revisit again. But
right now, like with what I have going on, I'm finally at a place where I'm working in an actual legit studio, Warner Brothers, doing what I love, and I'm so happy to be focusing on that right now and like really learning everything there. So I'm looking forward to that day when I can have that time to sit down and just put everything I want into that Kickstarter book, because it's something that I want to make happen. I feel like it's on my bucket list, and it's like definitely on like the top 3 things that I want to have accomplished before I die, to make something of myself that's by me, you know, and to have more help too. And like I need it. Like I have a couple of friends that are good editors, and because sometimes it's really hard to just be able to do everything yourself, but I kind of want to get to that place where I can have something in my hands that I made, and I think that's a really great feeling to have. So, whew. Yeah, so that's my life right there. I hope that, I guess, answered your question. And I hope it was coherent too, and that was something you guys want to hear, because I think it's cool to just kind of be more open with people and your journey and everything like that, because one of the people I really learned that from actually was Danny, because he like does talks at different like events, and he'll like go into his life story, because his life story is a part of what created LMS in the first place. It was inspired by like moments in his life. So I think it's hard for artists to say that there isn't something from somebody's life that they put into their work, whether it's something like one person that they knew or their whole life that they put into it. You know? So I'm just reading comments again. Xantitsuken, let's see, what kind of history? I love Asian history. It's one of my favorites, and I know Dan's a huge buff of like World War II history, and I always like when he like tells me about stuff that he learned from that. And he was the one that got me into Band of Brothers, because I had never watched the show, and I just always associate that show with my dad watching it by himself, and because I wasn't old enough to like watch it with him, so I just like hadn't watched it at all before. And Dana had sat me down, and we watched like a lot of episodes, because I just wanted to keep watching it one after the other. And the cast is so good in Band of Brothers, so good. I love seeing like random people I never thought I'd see in that movie. You know, like one of them being Jimmy Fallon. Like what? Yeah, so I love stuff like that. Because, I mean, like, so much of, like, storytelling is based off of things that have happened in history. You know, fairy tales are based off of something happened in history. Whether, like, they all kind of stem from, like, the tale of, like, Beowulf, you know? That's, like, the hero's journey. That's, like, one of my favorite stories to kind of tell. Let's see. Neil Long, can he be my mentor? No, I need a mentor. I am not qualified to be anybody's mentor at this point in my life yet. Ask me that in like 5 years, maybe. Let's see. Oh, Noah's here. Hi. Yay. I'm glad to see all like my friends and other people I don't know are in this chat. It's really cool. That's like one of my favorite things about doing streams or watching streams, is that people just all like hang out together and just watch each other draw and chat without any judgment and no pressure. I don't know if this is something I could do for like if someone ever asked me to do like a demo for their class or something. That's way more tense for me. But I feel like the good thing about doing streams like this is that it can help me talk as I stumble. It can help me talk while I draw at the same time, or explain things coherently about how I draw, and put it into good words for people to understand. Alicia, of course. So I even told Leisha this the other day too. Leisha's the only person that I could talk to about makeup that actually gives a shit about things like that. Sometimes when I'm working, I love watching makeup tutorials because it's actually very relaxing, and I know I'm going to sound super girly saying that, and I apologize for it, but it's a different kind of artistry that I totally respect, and I love it. And I think that's probably part of why I love RuPaul's Drag Race too, because it is so good. That's like the only reality TV I would ever watch or care about, is RuPaul's Drag Race. Let's see. I do not know how to do visual effects makeup, but that blows my mind even more. I know that there's another reality show that kind of covers that. It's like a movie makeup competition. I mean, it's something along the lines of that. But I mean, I don't have cable, so it's sort of hard because I feel like even if there are shows that I'm glad to miss out on, there could be other little gems that I don't know about before that could be really cool. Oh, is it Face Off? Oh, okay. Maybe that's it. Alright. That sounds right. I hope you guys are enjoying the stream so far. I know, like, I think there's, like, something I kind of realize I could say, and then when I say it, I just, like, put down my pen and start talking. I was like, oh shit, no, it's a stream. I'm trying to just, like... Oh my god, J.M. Gallo. I remember that. Oh, I'm glad you like that cookie. Oh, okay. Well, thank you for stopping by. I'm sorry you can't stay. Let's see. Oh, the How I Met Danny story. Funny story about that. So me in high school, DeviantArt days, as you all know, I think that was pretty much. I was a junior in high school, and I think at that point, DeviantArt already kind of had like those top artists that like, you would see their work circulate on there all the time, and dance tutorials were always posted on there. I remember, but this is like back then. I didn't know that was Dan. It was just Adonis, and I gave him shit for that later, by the way. But yeah, so it was Adonis. I just remember I had bookmarked his tutorials for how to paint shit, even though I feel like deep down I knew I was never going to paint like that, but I just loved the process. And so, anyways, years later, it was like maybe like October was when I think at that point Danny was promoting. I was Facebook friends with him already because he was following me on Instagram some time ago before that. But I remember he was promoting the pre-order on Amazon for LMS book, and I remember like I was like, oh, what's LMS? So then I was looking at the Amazon link, and I remember seeing reviews that people were writing about it, and they were like, yeah, ever since you were Adonis and yada yada. I was like, oh my god, it's that guy! Holy crap! So then I was like, that is so cool. And then like at that time, and I was trying to work on my book and myself and everything. I was kind of at that place where like I moved to California, I didn't really know anybody, so I was like, fuck it. Like I wanted to reach out to somebody that kind of knew how to do what it was that I wanted to do for myself in my work. Like, the thought process of making something yourself without, going completely insane, yada yada. So then I hit Dan up on Facebook chat, and then we were just messaging back and forth, and before I knew it, I went to hang out with him in Santa Monica, because I, for some reason, thought Adonis was like this guy that lived in Europe or something making art, but he was like, no, I live in Santa Monica. Like, oh, okay. So then I go over and hang out with him, and then it went from there. Yep. This October, end of October, will be 3 years, so yeah. I love when people don't know who Crystal is. Crystal, the lovely Crystal, is digitally untamed, in case you weren't sure. And obviously, Leisha Hannigan is Leisha Hannigan. And then I am Allison Smith Art, but I'm not really like chatting in the chat right now. I'm just talking on here, obviously. Oops. I gave him Street Fighter here. Oh. Yeah. I'm trying to get better at like drawing certain body types. I don't always get it right. I know the sketching is kind of all over the place right now. And by the way, shout out to Crystal and Leisha for helping me out with my streams. They're both very awesome artists, and you should follow their streams as well. Gio! Hi! So glad you could join. Excuse me. what I can hear him out. I think I should draw. Don't know whether to do like fan art stuff or not. I feel like I'm generally warmed up enough now. I'm sure you guys don't always want to see just random shit. Oh, thank you, Jake. Hi. Wait, what is this talk about me being married? No. Hell no. We're in no rush. I just want to do something fun. I don't know why I'm still on the low opacity. I think I was just doing this to like for my underneath lines, but whatever. Here. See it clear now. Neon, Miss Allison, how can I make details in clothes better, like the wrinkles and folds? Always recommend, of course, with anything else, you study from life. And I think if I want to feel really shitty about how not good I am at clothes and folds, I just look at those super realistic Renaissance paintings, because the folds in that always blow my mind. I think there's even, I follow a specific Instagram that posts details, like detail shots of things like that in paintings. I just love looking at that kind of thing. But I feel like if you don't look at that, then another really easy go-to is actually fashion blogs, because they always tend to post, you know, all their outfits and everything like that, and obviously there's like so many different kinds of outfits that they wear, so naturally with that, there's bound to be tons of reference for you to work off of from, and that's always cool. And then obviously the Sartorialist blog is definitely one of my favorites, because I like how he captures people in motion, and you can sort of see how the clothes are kind of moving from that, so that's always kind of a good tool for me to learn from. Let's see. Thank you, John Grimm. Let's see. Ball motion, how long do I usually warm up? I mean, that always varies. I mean, like, I pretty much warm up when I don't really set a timer for myself or anything. I know there's different exercises that you can do that are timed, like whether you do like 30-second gestures, 5-minute gestures, that kind of thing. I guess it's one way to go about it, but I think I just tend to draw until I feel somewhat comfortable, but then I just keep drawing anyway, so it's not like it's really any different. Let's see. Am I watching any anime right now? Not currently running right now. I'm pretty curious about Furikuri, the sequel news that came out, just because of what those initial first 6 episodes were. I have zero idea about what they're going to do later with that, so I'm definitely keeping my eye out on that for sure. But as for anything that I'm like currently like watching right now, like there's not really anything that I'm watching with that. I've been watching a lot of Justice League actually because of my work, so yeah, just for research. And then also I love those shows too. And I personally love Batman Superman's dynamic and those shows more than I do in the movie. But we don't have to talk about the movie. We don't have to get into a whole spiel about it. That's just what I say. Let's see. Bye, Jacob. Thank you for joining. Oopsie. Who's your favorite Game of Thrones character? God, I am so not remembering the last season right now. I think, let's see, I think, oh fuck. I'm totally blanking out, I suck at this. The character the girl that has that smirk, and I know you know who exactly I'm talking about. I love her. Brienne, obviously, Arya. I tend to like a lot of the female characters on there. But yeah, that's all I can think of right now. Yes, thank you, Alicia. Let's see. Ever thought of doing, say, a series of random characters and giving to Danny to do a pop culture twist on them? I let Danny do his thing on pop culture. Because I feel like the thing about like dating an artist is that you don't want to be the type of artist that tends to be, I don't know, like, here's what I think you should do, or I think you should do this, or I think you should do that. I think there's got to be that room for them to do their own thing, and I'm always appreciative if he ever asks me about anything about his work, his advice and whatnot, and I feel the same when he does that for me, but I think obviously that's like like his thing, and I do my thing with my work. So I let him do him, and then I do me, and then we help each other out if we need to, which I think is like a healthy way to go about it. Because I've never dated another artist before, because I was always worried about like competitiveness or whatever. But I mean, I never felt that way with Danny. I think it's like a healthy competitiveness in that it's more inspiration, because you see something that they've done and that kind of makes you want to work harder to get to something that you want to do, which I think is what's mostly important. What is that hand doing? Thanks again for hanging out with me on my stream, guys. I'm glad you guys are enjoying what I'm doing so far and the things that I'm saying. It's cool. I think as I do more of these, it's going to be a lot easier for me to kind of figure out how I want to go about doing certain streams or whatever. I think it's just easy to not really think about it too much, but I know sometimes like people don't always want to go into every stream session and just feel like they're just seeing the same thing over and over. So I want to do my best to not avoid that, but then still have it feel like it's, you guys are seeing what it is that I do. So, you know, they don't want to see like me doing what other people do or whatever. Can I just say how much I love pants like these? I love joggers. I used to think that they looked like adult diapers with long pants, but they're so comfy. And I feel like it's just always depend on like how you style those sorts of outfits too. But yeah, I got a couple of them the other day that are really cute. Groundswell. They're drawn cute girls. I should draw someone wearing a typical outfit. This would actually be something I would wear if I was having a really skinny day, because obviously with crop tops like that, I would have not, I can't be bloated in an outfit like that. But ideally, if I always had a belly that looked like that, then I would love to wear stuff like this. I tend to dress, like, comfortable. Not, like, lazy, but kind of, I like sporty. I mean, like, I can only really dress up so much because I end up working at a desk all day in a room with, like, only 2 other artists, so it's not like I'm not gonna be wearing heels all the time, but sometimes I kind of go back and forth between feeling girly or I feel kind of like, I don't know, kind of like guys' outfits or something. Not like tomboy, but I like men's fashion a lot because I feel like they tend to have a lot of pieces that I really like. Jake, is this pretty representative of how you usually approach a drawing, or how the digital transition affected that a bit? You weren't here earlier, but I was talking about just that approach of drawing digitally is always going to be different from drawing traditionally, because I said earlier that drawing traditionally, there's like a tacticalness to a certain paper that you draw on, or certain tools that you use, or whatever, and they always have like their own kind of feel to it, and then you can always like have fun exploring all those different variations. And then there's digital, where the variation is really only in the like whatever brush set you're using at the time, or else otherwise it's just a Cintiq or a tablet and the type of pen. So I think once you kind of are just aware of the fact that it's always going to feel different, then you focus on having a different approach to drawing digitally versus traditionally. Like if you were that type of person that draws traditional over digital, and if it goes or the other way, when you used to draw digital all the time, but then you don't know how to approach traditional, you just always have to have the different approach. You have to think of it from a different angle. You can't approach digital drawings the same way that you can traditional. It's just not going to happen like that. Luke Swain, who's the music artist? Sorry, I didn't see that earlier. The song before this one is called Broods, like Broods, and it's a remix of the song called Bridges. I'm sure you've seen me draw poses like this before, but I always love like stretching poses, because stretching poses kind of expose all the different little like lines and bumps and everything in the body when people stretch, and it's always like really interesting to look at. And I think it's fun to draw out poses like that are a bit more complex, because then you can't really think of it like as so much of a challenge. You just think you're just having fun with it, and then who cares if you like don't always get it right perfectly. Like I was saying earlier, it's bound to happen, so you can't expect to go into everything perfectly. Sorry, I've been catching up on chat. What do you do to make your drawings more fluid and not so stiff? Let's see. I think the gesturing really plays a key part in that, because when you're doing really quick gesture practicing, you try to draw out as much of the overall body as you can in a short amount of time, because I think when you don't focus on, I have to make sure this arm is perfect before I get to this part of the body, if you only have like a couple minutes to really draw the whole person, I feel like that's when you're really laying down the lines more confidently and not just spending so much time in one area of the paper. it's like when you see painters standing and they always keep like an arm's length away from their painting, so they just always focus on just the overall line. I mean, that's how people usually end up drawing in figure drawing classes anyways. They're like, they stand and like they keep their arm like mostly straight. You know, it's just so that you're not up close to the paper and really drawing super detailed when you only really have like a short amount of time to draw that person. So I think once you do that a lot more, then your lines end up being more confident, and then in turn they feel more fluid, I guess. So then as long as you focus on that practice, then you kind of see it happen without realizing it. So I hope that kind of answers that. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just reading what you guys are saying. Taylor, glad that you can watch my streaming. Regarding anatomy, who do you usually study, observe, to learn? I don't really have like too many resources. I mentioned at the beginning of my stream the anatomy for an artist book was pretty handy, but in terms of like specific people, not so much in like specific like how to draw this or that, but I think the like artists that know how to capture people very well, like J.C. Leyendecker, Norman Rockwell were like big influences of mine. Al Hirschfield, actually, if you don't know the name, you've definitely seen his work at some point before. It's not like he draws like typical caricatures of people or everything. He has like a very smooth and quick way of capturing something in such few lines that I've always loved that. And it's one of those things where he makes it look like it's so easy, but then it's not, because there's so much to learn for him to get to that point of his career and that skill. So it's not something as like so like, oh, I could just pick that up really quick. You know, I mean, there's a lot of practice that leads up to getting that good and to draw that easily.
Absolutely, I think it was the only explanation.
Oopsie. Well, thanks, Jake. It means a lot. I'm seeing some discussion about that whole tracer debacle thingy. I tend not to like get myself too much into those debates because I feel like coming from me, and like, if you've seen a lot of my drawings, I mean, I draw different kinds of girls, and sometimes they're like sexy girls, and I've drawn butts and boobs before, as you can clearly see. But I mean, it's one of those things that I find there's certain ways of it being portrayed that it doesn't bother me, but it's one of the, I don't want to get into a whole discussion about it. I mean, pretty much, I would know the difference between it, like, kind of being like, okay, that's really pushing it, and then, like, at the same time, there's, like, other things that are, like, kind of sexy, and it's, like, I don't mind it, you know, but we don't have to go to a whole debate about it. There's, like, tons of Facebook, like, back and forths I've seen on it when that came out that I just, like, I think I avoided Facebook that day. Anyway, Mythagar, have you ever felt stuck? What do you do to improve / practice or get out of it? yeah, definitely. Kind of right now, but I think that's just because I'm doing other things at the same time. But, I don't know, I think I just, sometimes if I get stuck, it's because I'm thinking too much about, I'm overthinking things, because I tend to be a kind of person that, like, tends to overanalyze things about, like, what is it that I'm doing wrong, what can I get better at, what can I get better at, and I think the best thing for me, for my type of brain, is just to turn that off completely. I feel like that's when I just put on music, and I just draw whatever I feel like drawing. I'm not drawing to have something to post later on social media or whatever, because I think when you think about that, that puts, like, pressure on you to make certain things so that people will like it or whatever, but just make it strictly for yourself, and that you don't have to post it anywhere if you don't want to. It's okay. And once you think of it like that and that approach, then you're just sort of getting in that zone out point. I think I talked to Dan about this before too. It's like when you first drew as a kid, you weren't drawing for really anybody else. Maybe to show your mom and dad so they could put on the fridge, whatever. But for the most part, even with everything else you have, like, going on in your life as a kid, like, whatever, I mean, really, that's just homework. Like, drawing was like an escapism from sort of, not always like facing your responsibilities or whatever, but because you just love, like, watching things as a kid, and then you just always wanted to make something after that. That was what I had always felt like after I'd watch, like, my favorite movies and TV shows and things like that. So I try to think of that sort of mentality to just kind of go back to how that felt as a kid, because you're not putting this sort of weird pressure on yourself as a kid, like, oh, I saw, like, this artist's work and I have to make it at that level, like, oh, I'm never gonna be that good. Like, you're not thinking like that when you're a 10-year-old. I mean, you're just thinking, I just want to make something fun for me, and, like, and that's how it just should be. Especially if you ever feel stuck. And then I think when you build confidence from that, then people read that vibe off of your work. They see that without you having to push it on people. So, and that's how I always kind of felt like I ended up kind of getting more attention towards my work, I guess, because a lot of my audience is on Instagram. And once I kind of stopped feeling like I needed to make certain art for certain people, I mean, everybody's going to have their own taste in things. Like, people are either going to love your work or just not love it, and that's okay. I mean, everybody has their own taste in things. And I think what matters is you share your work, but then you could just have it with an attitude of, like it or not, I just wanted to share this with you guys. And I'm going to keep at it, and no one's going to tell me to stop, because this is just what I enjoy doing. And then all that sort of energy that you put out like that tends to come back to you in a positive way. So I think, like, if you ever do that thing where you post art and you tag, like, 50 of your favorite artists on it, do not do that. That is the worst thing you can do. That is the polar opposite of what you should do to have attention towards your work. Because as soon as we see, like, artists, like, if I'm tagged in something like that, I remember your name because of that, and I avoid you even more because of it. So please don't do that. Please don't do that. It's better that you don't. But anyway, yeah, so altogether, don't put pressure on yourself. Just have fun. It's art, you know? I mean, like, it's such a weird career that we're in if that's what you do. That, like, who cares about, you know, certain things that you make for yourself. I don't know what I want this thing to look like. I'm trying to, like, sometimes if I'm thinking about a certain pose, I'll just, like, do it myself, and I try to, like, figure out what that looks like. Which is why I do not have a webcam for these streams, and I probably never will, because I think you guys would just see me doing ridiculous poses to myself and try to figure out, like, what it is that I'm trying to do, so. So then also, if you don't always feel like drawing hands, then maybe you could just have hair go over. Youth. Life hacks, the artist's way. And then also you can just practice hair flow. Look it. Let's see. Hi Travis, hi Trey. Thanks for coming in. Yeah, like what Crystal Digitally Untamed said, there's definitely that anxiety trap when you're worrying about sharing your work online. Like for me myself, that kind of developed anxiety since I moved to LA. Like I knew that if I was to make myself worry about dumb shit like that, then that would have just made it worse for me. Like there's such a thing as like putting unnecessary pressure on yourself. Don't do that. I mean, like, it's like self-sabotage, and you're gonna see it reflected in your work if you continually do that to yourself. And then you get frustrated because that's what your work looks like because you do that to yourself. It's like a never-ending cycle. Just don't do that. And I know it's like easier said than done, but just take baby steps in working towards like not doing that to yourself, and you see such a difference in how you feel mentally and how your work is shown when you do it. Let's see. Also, don't add people to groups without asking. Totally. Yes, that. So much that. And what's funny is that when there's that whole discovery that was made about how messages on Facebook were being filtered, and you had like that whole inbox of messages you never knew you had. Oh my god. I had so many. Like it dated back to 2013 for me. And a lot of them were kind of like, I mean, obviously there's kind of like the creepy guy here and there, but that's whatever. But like people that wanted to just like pitch things to you or like ask you to do work for them for free. Yeah, I got bills to pay. I can't do that. But thank you for liking my work enough, though. Yeah, I'm switching from concept art studios, and I am so stuck drawing personally. Sucks, but yeah, totally just really helps. Well, good. I hope a bit of what I said, means something to you guys, and hope you can take a little bit of that with you. I mean, like, I'm speaking strictly from my own personal experience, so, and I know I don't have the same career